Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that constantly tells us to blend in, to be agreeable, to go along just to keep the peace. But what if I told you that one act, just one, could change the way people see you forever? It isn't about becoming louder, harsher, or more aggressive. It's about embracing something that might feel radical, setting a firm boundary. Most of us grow up believing that kindness means saying yes to everything. We learn to sacrifice our own comfort to avoid conflict, to make everyone happy at the cost of our own well-being. But when we finally take that brave step of drawing a line, just once, we begin to notice something remarkable. The way people treat us shifts. The respect they show us deepens. Our relationships start to evolve, sometimes in ways we never imagined. Setting a boundary isn't about shutting people out. It's about letting the right people in. It's about creating space for authentic connection rather than shallow approval. When you make it clear what is and isn't acceptable to you, you invite others to meet you on solid ground. You invite honesty, respect, and true intimacy. Yes, some people might push back. They might call you selfish, difficult, or too much. But those reactions are not reflections of your worth. They are reflections of their discomfort with your newfound strength. When we stand firm in our truth, we find out who really respects us and who only benefited from our silence. So if you do this just once, watch closely, you will begin to see who stands beside you and who simply stood on you. You will notice how your energy shifts from exhaustion to empowerment. You will feel the difference in your body, in your mind, in your heart. You will realize that the love and respect you crave have been waiting for you to claim them all along. When you dare to draw that line, you teach the world how to love you properly. You show others that your kindness has boundaries, that your love has depth, and that your presence is a privilege, not a right. And perhaps most importantly, you remind yourself that you are worthy of the respect you so freely give to everyone else. Many of us grow up believing that love is unconditional sacrifice. That being kind means we must always be available, agreeable, and accommodating. We learn early on to say yes even when our whole body screams no. We learn to stay silent to keep the peace, to shrink ourselves so others can feel big. But there comes a moment when we realize that constantly erasing ourselves does not make us kinder. It makes us resentful. In that moment, we understand that boundaries are not walls built to keep people out, but bridges designed to protect and honor who we are. Setting boundaries is not a betrayal of others, it's a deep commitment to ourselves. Boundaries are an act of self-respect because they remind us that our needs matter just as much as anyone else's. When we say, I cannot do this right now, or this does not feel good to me, we are affirming our worth. We are declaring that our energy, time, and emotions are not an open buffet for anyone to consume at will. It's a courageous act because the world often rewards self-sacrifice and punishes self-prioritization. But every time we choose to honor ourselves, we reclaim a piece of our dignity. We tell ourselves, I am not here to be used. I am here to live fully and authentically. Too often, people equate boundaries with cruelty or coldness. They believe that by asserting our limits, we are rejecting or hurting others. But the opposite is true. Boundaries actually create the conditions for healthy relationships to flourish. When we express what is okay and what isn't, we invite others to meet us in honesty and respect. We no longer force ourselves into roles that don't fit or accept behavior that wounds us. We create clarity instead of confusion. Boundaries make love sustainable because they prevent the quiet buildup of resentment that can destroy even the most meaningful connections. Setting boundaries also teaches us to trust ourselves. When we live without them, we often find ourselves in situations that drain us, surrounded by people who take more than they give. We second guess our feelings and override our inner voice. But when we start to draw lines, we begin to hear that voice more clearly. We learn to listen to our discomfort instead of dismissing it. We start to recognize that our intuition is not an inconvenience. It's a compass. Each time we honor it, we strengthen our relationship with ourselves. We become our own safe place, our own protector, our own advocate. Perhaps the most radical part of setting boundaries is realizing that we are allowed to take up space. We are allowed to rest when we are tired, to decline invitations when we need solitude, to speak up when something feels wrong. We are allowed to exist as whole human beings with limits, not as endless resources for others. The moment we understand this, we begin to shift from survival to self-respect. We no longer seek validation through overextending ourselves. Instead, we stand firmly in the truth that we are worthy simply because we exist. Our value is not conditional upon how much we give away. When we embody this self-respect, we become magnetic. People start to notice a new energy around us, an energy of quiet strength and unshakable authenticity. We stop attracting relationships that feed on our compliance and start inviting those that celebrate our fullness. And while some people may resist or criticize our newfound boundaries, we learn that their discomfort is not our responsibility to fix. It is not our job to make everyone comfortable at the cost of our own well-being. Our job is to honor ourselves so deeply that others learn to do the same. Many of us were taught to believe that saying no is a rejection of love or an act of cruelty. We internalize the message that being a good person means being endlessly available, agreeable, and eager to please. We convince ourselves that if we just keep saying yes, yes to extra work, yes to social obligations, yes to requests that stretch us thin, we'll finally be loved, appreciated, and valued. But the reality is that when we constantly say yes to everything and everyone, we end up saying no to ourselves over and over again. We sacrifice our peace, our energy, and our joy, all in the name of approval. When we begin to practice saying no, it feels terrifying. Our hearts race, our palms sweat, and we imagine all the worst case scenarios. We worry that people will leave, judge us, or brand us as difficult. But saying no is not an act of aggression, it's an act of clarity. It means we are no longer willing to betray ourselves just to be accepted. We learn to prioritize our needs and listen to the quiet voice inside that whispers, "This isn't right for you." That voice has always been there. We just never gave it permission to speak loudly. In truth, saying no is one of the most loving things we can do, not just for ourselves, but also for others. When we say yes while secretly resenting it, we bring bitterness and tension into our interactions. Our energy becomes heavy, our smiles forced, our presence fragmented. But when we honor our true feelings and set honest limits, we show up fully in the moments we do say yes. Our relationships become more authentic because they are no longer built on silent sacrifices and hidden frustrations. We replace performative kindness with genuine connection. Saying no also liberates us from the exhausting cycle of people pleasing. This cycle keeps us stuck in a loop of proving our worth through external validation. We think if we just keep giving, eventually someone will finally give back. But true respect and love cannot be earned through overextension. They are offered freely or not at all. When we say no, we break the illusion that we must hustle for our worthiness. We come to understand that real love will never require us to abandon ourselves. It's important to recognize that saying no does not require explanation or justification. We don't owe anyone a detailed account of our reasons or a lengthy apology. A simple, "I can't right now," or "this doesn't work for me," is enough. The more we practice this, the more we begin to reclaim our time and energy. We start to notice the spaciousness that opens up in our lives, the freedom that arises when we stop overcommitting. We realize that our lives are our own to design, not canvases for others to paint their expectations on. As we strengthen this practice, we discover a deeper layer of self-trust. We learn to stand firmly in our decisions without guilt. We learn to tolerate the discomfort of disappointing others and recognize that it does not make us unkind or unworthy. We begin to see that each no is an invitation to create more meaningful yeses. Yes to rest, yes to our passions, yes to the relationships that truly nourish us. Saying no is not a rejection of love, it is an affirmation of it. It is a promise to ourselves that we will no longer abandon who we are to be, who someone else wants us to be. One of the most eye-opening parts of setting boundaries is witnessing how people respond to them. Reactions can range from supportive and understanding to defensive and dismissive, and these responses teach us more about people than any conversation ever could. When someone genuinely cares for us, they will respect our limits, even if it challenges their own desires or expectations. They might not always agree with our boundaries, but they honor them because they honor us. On the other hand, when someone's affection for us is conditional on their needs being met, our boundaries become a threat rather than an invitation for deeper connection. When you start to say no or speak your truth, some people will surprise you with their warmth and respect. They might even express admiration for your courage. These are the people who see you as a whole human being, not just a source of comfort or convenience. They value your autonomy and want you to feel safe and seen in their presence. You may find these relationships deepen and become more authentic because the foundation is no longer built on unspoken resentment or silent compliance. But there will also be people who react with anger, guilt, tripping, or withdrawal. They may accuse you of being selfish or dramatic. This backlash is painful, but it reveals an important truth. These individuals benefited from your lack of boundaries. They enjoyed the version of you that always said yes, that never pushed back, that sacrificed self for the sake of harmony. When that version disappears, they feel deprived, and their resistance exposes the transactional nature of the relationship. Rather than seeing your boundary as a healthy act of self-care, they interpret it as a personal betrayal. It's in these moments that we learn to differentiate between those who truly love us and those who merely love what we provide. We begin to understand that love without respect isn't love. It's dependency, control, or entitlement disguised as affection. A relationship that cannot survive your boundary is a relationship that was never truly safe to begin with. As painful as it may be, these revelations are gifts. They free us from the illusion of connection and guide us toward relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and authenticity. When we start living with clear boundaries, we also notice a shift in our own energy. We become less available to people who drain us and more present for those who uplift us. We stop investing in relationships that require us to disappear to keep the peace. Instead, we start building connections that allow us to expand, to be messy, to be human. We begin to crave interactions where we don't have to perform or pretend The people who remain in our lives after we set boundaries are the ones who truly deserve to be there. It's not easy to accept that some relationships will change or even end once you step into your truth. But each reaction, no matter how painful, is a mirror reflecting the depth of the other person's respect for you. You will grieve the loss of certain dynamics, but you will also feel a sense of liberation. You are no longer held hostage by the fear of losing approval. You start to prioritize genuine connection over superficial acceptance. And in doing so, you finally make room for the love and respect that align with who you really are. We often think that keeping the peace means avoiding difficult conversations or suppressing our true feelings. We believe that if we don't rock the boat, our relationships will stay smooth and everyone will stay happy. But what we fail to realize is that avoiding conflict doesn't create peace. It only creates a fragile, temporary illusion of it. True peace and intimacy are not built on avoidance, but on honesty. Boundaries are the foundation of that honesty, and they are what transform shallow connections into deep, meaningful ones. When we set boundaries, we invite the people in our lives to know the real us, not the agreeable mask we wear to please them. We give them a chance to love us as we truly are, instead of the curated version of ourselves we've presented to avoid rejection. By saying, "This is what I need," or "This is what I can't accept," we offer the deepest parts of ourselves for others to see. We become vulnerable, and that vulnerability, though frightening, is what makes intimacy possible. It is the difference between being liked and being truly loved. Boundaries act as a filter that helps us discern which relationships can handle authenticity. Some people will rise to be the challenge, meeting us with compassion and a willingness to grow together. These are the connections that strengthen and deepen because they are based on mutual respect rather than silent expectations. When both people feel safe to express their truths, trust becomes the bedrock of the relationship. There is no need for guessing games or emotional contortion. Both can show up fully, flaws and all. Without boundaries, we risk living in relationships filled with unspoken resentments and unmet needs. We silently tally sacrifices, quietly hope someone will notice our pain, and then feel crushed when they don't. Over time, this erodes the connection, turning warmth into bitterness. But when we articulate our limits and needs, we give others a roadmap for how to love us better. We take responsibility for our own emotions instead of expecting others to read our minds or magically fulfill our unvoiced desires. One of the most beautiful outcomes of living with boundaries is that we start to feel genuinely safe in our relationships. We no longer fear that our authenticity will scare people away because those who stay have proven they can handle our truth. We can breathe more deeply, laugh more fully, and love more openly. We stop tiptoeing around each other's sensitivities and start creating a space where real connection can thrive. This type of closeness is rare and precious. It can only exist when both people are brave enough to be real. Ultimately, boundaries deepen real connections by creating a space where honesty is valued more than comfort and authenticity is cherished more than approval. They teach us that we do not have to abandon ourselves to be loved. In fact, the more we honor who we truly are, the more magnetic we become to those who are capable of loving us deeply. We move from shallow pleasantries to profound connection, from surface-level interactions to soul-deep bonds. Boundaries may feel scary at first, but they are the doorway to the kind of relationships our hearts have always longed for. When we begin to set boundaries and stand in our truth, something profound shifts within us. It's as if we've been walking through life with a heavy cloak draped over our shoulders. A cloak woven from other people's expectations, demands, and opinions. As we learn to say no, to voice our needs, and to protect our energy, we start to slip that cloak off. Suddenly, we feel lighter, freer, and more alive. This internal transformation doesn't stay hidden. It radiates outward, transforming the way we move through the world and the way others perceive us. Empowerment begins as an inside job. It starts with a quiet decision deep in our hearts: I will no longer abandon myself. This decision might seem small at first, but it is revolutionary. Instead of living on autopilot, constantly responding to what others want, we start asking ourselves what we truly need. We begin to build a life that reflects our values and desires rather than one that simply accommodates everyone else's. As we make this shift, our energy changes from scattered and depleted to grounded and strong. We become a beacon, not just for ourselves, but for others who long to do the same. People can sense this shift often before we even say a word. There's a new clarity in our eyes, a different steadiness in our posture, a calm confidence in our voice. We no longer approach interactions from a place of needing to be liked or needing to prove ourselves. Instead, we show up as whole, complete beings, open to connection, but no longer desperate for it. This presence is magnetic because it comes from a place of authenticity. People feel safer around us, drawn to our steadiness and honesty. Empowerment also reshapes our boundaries with ourselves. We start holding ourselves accountable in gentler, yet firmer ways. We learn to rest without guilt, to celebrate our accomplishments without downplaying them, and to forgive ourselves when we stumble. This self-compassion is a crucial part of empowerment. It allows us to show up with integrity, knowing that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy. As we cultivate this relationship with ourselves, we reinforce the message that we are not here to perform, we are here to live fully and courageously. As we embody this empowered energy, the dynamics in our relationships begin to shift. Some people may feel threatened or confused by our new boundaries and confidence, while others will be inspired and encouraged. The ones who can no longer manipulate or take advantage of us might drift away. Although this can be painful, it creates space for more nourishing connections to enter our lives. We start attracting people who respect our now as much as our yes, who celebrate our growth rather than feel intimidated by it. The quality of our relationships improves dramatically because they are built on mutual respect and genuine appreciation rather than obligation or fear. In time, we realize that empowerment is not just about how we feel inside. It's about how we transform every room we walk into. We become someone who inspires others to stand in their own truth, someone who models what it looks like to live with courage and conviction. Our presence becomes an invitation for authenticity and mutual respect. We stop dimming our light to make others comfortable, and in doing so, we encourage everyone around us to shine brighter too. Empowerment is not a single act. It is a lifelong practice of honoring ourselves, and it changes not only how people treat us, but also how we treat the world. When we begin to set boundaries, to say no, to watch how people react, to nurture real connections, and to step fully into our empowered presence, something remarkable happens. We stop living small. We stop shrinking ourselves to fit into spaces that were never meant for us. We stop handing over our power in exchange for fleeting approval. Instead, we begin to build a life rooted in truth and integrity, a life where we are deeply respected, not for how much we give away, but for how fully we show up as ourselves. we discover that love, the real kind, doesn't demand our silence or our sacrifice. It invites our wholeness. This journey is not always comfortable. You will lose people. You will grieve the versions of yourself that existed only to please. But on the other side of that discomfort is freedom. The freedom to rest. The freedom to speak your mind. The freedom to be loved exactly as you are, not as you think you should be. And perhaps the most beautiful gift of all, you begin to inspire others to do the same. Your courage becomes a mirror, reflecting back to them the possibility of living more honestly and more bravely. So do this once, set that boundary, say that no, stand in that truth, and watch how the world shifts around you. Watch how people treat you differently. Watch how your life begins to align with the deepest parts of who you are. You deserve to take up space, to be honored, and to be loved without conditions. It all starts with one brave choice.